Hi and welcome to this video on div, mod and random numbers. So the purpose of this video is to explain the use of div and mod and for you to be able to use these in your code, and likewise to show you how to import and use random number functions in your code as well. Okay, as always guys, the Python Monster resources, the booklets and the videos are there for your use. You may also find them useful for your revision as well. Okay, so what exactly are div and mod? So let's go back to primary school, believe it or not. And can you remember the days when division was expressed in this wonderfully simple way? So for example, 4 divided by 2 equals 2, remainder 0. 37 divided by 4 equals 9, remainder 1. And if you were really ambitious in those days, you may have tried something like 67 divided by 3 equals 22, remainder 1. Okay, so obviously somebody invented this just so that you guys could practice your times tables all those years ago. Okay, so believe it or not, computer programming actually takes this stuff really seriously. All right, div and mod are essentially div being the whole number and mod being the remainder. Okay, so if this feels a little bit unbelievable, in future videos we will be making a lot more use of mod and div, because one of its really useful features is being able to convert from one number system to the other. So for example, being able to convert decimal numbers to binary. Okay, so you will get to see examples of how we can put these into really good use, but I will be showing you how to use them in this video, obviously. So before we go on to coding, I just wanted to show you what the relationship is between the way in which you are used to seeing fractional components or fractions expressed these days. Okay, so either as something like 35 over 4, okay, which is the decimal equivalent of 8.75, and what that actually means in terms of the old world of whole numbers and remainders. Well, in actual fact, if you take the 0.75 off the end, okay, and express that as a percentage, if you take 75% of 4, you get the old-fashioned remainder, which is 3. Okay, so 35 divided by 4 is 8, remainder 3. Likewise, I mean, even if we don't have division that gives us an exact result, so if we have a look at 72 over 7, or 72 divided by 7, expressed as 10.2857, that's actually rounded up to 4 decimal places. But even then, if you take 28.5% of 7, actually gives you about 1.999, which is pretty near 2. Okay, so we could also express that as saying 72 divided by 7 is 10, remainder 2. Okay, so now you've seen the relationship between the two, let's crack on and do some coding. So let's look at some simple examples of how we use div and mod. Before I do that though, I'm just going to do an ordinary division example, which you guys have seen many times before. Okay, so I'm going to put my normal to express the fact that this is what you're normally used to seeing. So my normal equals, let's say 23 divided by 3. Okay, let's print that out. Okay, let's run it, see what we get. So the result of 23 divided by 3 is actually 7.66 recurring. Python rounds it up at the end when it's basically got fed up giving us all of those decimal places that it normally gives us. Okay, so in the normal world, 23 divided by 3 is 7.66 recurring. Okay, so let's translate that into the world of div and mod. So let's do my div equals. Okay, now to distinguish with Python between ordinary division and integer division, we use 2 forward slashes instead of 1. So I will put 23 / 3. Okay, let's print that out. So print my div, and this time we will get just the integer at the front. Okay, so just the integer part of 23 divided by 3. If we want the modulus part, then let's do my mod equals, and this time to ask Python to do a mod, we use the percentage symbol. Okay, so 23% 3, let's print that out, my mod, and we get 2. So in the normal world of division, 23 divided by 3, 7.66 recurring. 23 div 3 is 7, and 23 mod 3 is 2. So in other words, 23 divided by 3 is 7, remainder 2. And you know that because 7 3s are 21, and the difference between 23 and 21 is the 2. So we said earlier that div and mod are actually very, very important features of all programming languages, in fact, and they play a significant role in some really complicated algorithms. We will come across some more useful features of div and mod when we look at converting numbers from one number system to another, as I mentioned earlier. But in this video I just want to give you some basic examples so you can see how they work. So a nice little feature for using div and mod is when we are working with units which are not decimal. Okay, so units of measurement not decimal, like for example feet and inches. So you guys know there are 12 inches in a foot. Okay, so if I wanted to convert inches into feet, excuse me, what I could do is something simple, like I could say, let's put a comment up here, let's say working in feet and inches. So I could do something really simple, like say result equals, let's say we have 175 inches. I want to know what that is in feet. I could just divide it by 12. Okay, and let's just print the result. And it says 175 inches is 14 feet, okay, and a bit left over. It's 14.5833 feet, which is sort of okay because I get a sense of the size of 175 inches, but I don't know what 0.5833 of a foot is expressed in inches. So one of the things which I can do to remedy that is to use mod 12 to give me the inches, in other words the remainder. So let's just get the integer component by changing that from a normal division to a integer division. So that will just give me the 14. Okay, in fact I'm going to change this and I'm going to call it feet because that's what this represents. And to get the inches left over, okay, I'm going to put inches equals 175 and then mod 12. Okay, and let's print the inches. Okay. So this time it says basically 175 inches is the equivalent of 14 feet 7 inches. Okay, and that's because I've used mod and I'm basically working in units of 12 rather than units of 10. So you might be able to put 2 and 2 together and sort of make the relationship between using div and mod, converting from one number system like decimal to another number system, okay, like say hex or binary. So guys, in this video that's all I wanted to cover for div and mod, just to make you aware of what they are from a theory perspective, and also for you to have some examples of how you can use them really quite simply in your code. So let's move on to looking at how to import random numbers into your code. So guys, what we're going to do is a little coding project or a little program which works with random numbers, and then we're going to pop some div and mod code in there as well. So in order for us to be able to work with random numbers, we need to import a couple of functions. Well, just one actually, but I am going to use 2 functions as well because I want to show you how to use random integers and random floats as well. So what we need to do is we need to say from random, which is the name of the library, import, and then we want the name of the function, which is randint, which stands for random integer, and I'm also going to import uniform as well. Uniform is the library function which gives us random floats, as well as having the ability to generate random integers as well. Okay, now the reason that comes up low lighted in PyCharm, if you're wondering, is because I haven't made use of those functions yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign to a variable random integers to start with. So I'm going to say my randint equals, and then I need to ask Python to generate a random number. So it'll be randint, and then I want the range with which I want Python to generate those numbers. So I'm going to ask Python to generate a random number between, let's say 1 and 5. Okay, so 1, 5, that's inclusive. So from 1 to 5 inclusive. And just to show you that this works, I'm going to print out my randint, and then we're going to run it a couple of times so you can see that it does actually produce random numbers. Okay, so this time we get 3, and let's make that bigger, 5. So 3 and 5. Next time we run it, we get 2. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, we get 2 again. Let's do it one more time. There we get 5. I was wondering if we would get 5, just to show you that it does actually generate a random number with the numbers inclusive in there, so from 1 to 5 inclusive. Okay, so that works nicely. So what we're going to do now is we are going to ask the user to give us a number as well. So let's do my input equals. So I'm going to start off getting the string input first with the message correct. Okay, so my input equals, and then we want input, and then the instructions. So please input an integer from let's say 15 to 30. Just move that over a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, so my input, please input an integer from 15 to 30, and then we need to actually convert it to an integer as well. So we need to use the int casting function around the outside. Okay, so that will give us a value from the user. Then what we're going to say is we are going to say my div equals, and then we want the user's input. Okay, dived by my random int, and then we want to say my mod equals, same again, my input, and then we want percentage sign. Okay, and then my randint. Okay, and now we need to print out some results. So let's say print your input was, okay, and then we want the string. We want to cast the user's input back to a string again so we can concatenate it. Okay, so we want my input. Okay, and we want the plus in there, of course, to concatenate. Then we want to print the random number was, okay, and then we want to concatenate that with the string equivalent of my random number. Oops. There we go, my random integer. And then we want to say print, say the integer division is, and let's do the same again. We want string cast of my div. Okay, and then we want the mod, so print the mod result was, okay, and that's plus concatenated with the string casting result of, and then we want my mod. Okay, so let's run that and see. We're going to have to put some input in, so I'm just going to move that over a little bit. Okay, so please input, let's move that over, guys, a bit for you. So please input an integer from 15 to 30, so let's put 25. Okay, so it says your input was 25, the random number was 2, the integer division is 12, and the mod result was 1. So in other words, okay, we generated a random number of 2. 25 divided by 2 is 12, remainder 1. Okay, let's run it again. So actually I'm not, let me cancel that because I'm just going to change my formatting, because that's going to annoy me actually, because I haven't done my magic arrows. Okay, so that'll just space it out, make it a little neater. Okay, so let's run it again. Okay, so please input a number from 15 to 30. Let's do 16. So your input was 16, the random number generated was 1, integer division is 16, the mod result was 0. Okay, let's run it one more time. So input integer for 15 to 30. Let's do 29 this time. Okay. Oh, it's given us 1. Oh, that's a bit dull. So let's run it again, because we had 1 generated randomly last time. Okay. Let's do 29 again. There we go. So your input is 29. The random number was 2. The integer division of 29 divided by 2 is 14, and the mod result was 1. In other words, 29 divided by 2 is 14, remainder 1. Okay. So importing and working with a random number is very easy, guys. This is the syntax that you use, okay, to import the function specifically. Okay, so from random input randint. So randint obviously is short for random integer. And before we finish this video, I'll just show you what uniform does. Okay, you can sort of probably guess, but I'll show you what it looks like in code. It's come up in grey, as I said earlier, because I haven't used it in the code. So let's get rid of the box. So I'm just going to get rid of this code. All right, here. So I'm going to use uniform. So let's change this from randint to uniform. Okay, and this time I want numbers generated from, let's say 5 to 20. Okay, and I'm going to change that to FLT, because these are not integers that are being generated, they're floats. Okay, so FLT. Just to show you that this feature works, you'll be pleased to know. Okay, so here we can see, guys, that is very definitely a float. Okay, if you've ever missed decimal numbers before, you won't miss this one. 7.1005081 blah de blah. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in that extra line of code to round the number up to 2 decimal places. I'm sure you can remember how we do that from previous videos in the classroom. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to reassign to the same variable. So I'm going to say my round float equals, all right, and then round of my round float, okay, comma 2, which will give me 2 decimal places. All right, so let's try that again. There we go. So we got 17.09, okay, 8.19. So all of these will either be 5 point something or above. Okay, so they are 19.92. Okay, so just wanted to show you that uniform exists, guys. Okay, and with rounding, okay, it can be really useful to be able to generate float random numbers as well as integers. Okay, guys, that wraps up this video, and I will see you in the next video.